Welcome to the Awaken Man podcast. And today we are talking about why he or she won't have sex with you.
Oh, yeah.
We're going
Strong,
to,
straight in. Why she's not having sex with you?
yeah. This is a big question in my own personal journey. I'm going to be using examples from my own life, my own experience, honestly and openly. It's something that we face a lot on when we're speaking to guys, we're coaching guys, and I think in the space that Pete and I operate in, a lot of guys they don't just want to have the great business and the successful career; they want to have the relationship that matches that, and sex is a huge part of that. And so, what a canary in the mine for a lot of guys that things aren't going right at home is a severe lack of sex. There's either a severe lack of sex where you don't have it at all. There is no sex. There is sporadic sex, and when that sex happens, it's not the sex that you want to be having, or there is just a total you just it's a big shift in your relationship. It's changed so much from where it first started. There's such a big contrast in the sex in your relationship, and you've noticed this change, and you don't have a clue where to start. So what we want to do in this workshop, and well, it's a podcast, is that we want to go through 5 or 6 reasons why she's not having sex with you and talk about it openly. And hopefully it'll give you some place to start if you can see some of the symptoms. And we're also going to give you some of our experiences and some signposting to where you can start to work on this stuff too.
Yeah, yeah. And guys, when you're listening to this, and this absolutely came up for me in previous relationships, is that I'd go into like fucking blame mode. I'd just blame her. No, she's the problem. It's not me. And now I look back at that, and now I've done so much work, like the inner work that we do on Awaken Man. I was just being a fucking victim. I was looking to blame someone else rather than taking ownership of the situation. Going, right, what is the problem here, and what can I do to go and lead the way?
I think,
And
yeah, yeah, you
and
nailed
that's
that,
and
the
that,
word there.
yeah, the key word is lead, especially for a
Yeah,
guy. That's probably what your woman is looking for, is leadership here.
yeah. Maybe that could be, before we dive into some of the ones we've written down, is actually she's taken the leadership role. That's
Yeah.
we've discussed this. So we had a reel that went viral. 4 million, I think it's like nearly 4 million views. I can't remember. I haven't seen it, the view count on it, but it went viral. Like, people were sending it to people, they were commenting, and it was so much on that reel. And it was me saying about, if you put your partner in the position of being your mother, they won't want to have sex with you. And it triggered a lot of men, but a lot of women were like, "Oh my god, who's this guy? He knows what he's talking about." It's like, yeah, this, and there was, but it wasn't from a position of reading that. That was exactly, I could see how I'd done that in the past, and I was being honest. I was just speaking from experience, and it got so much attention. So it obviously means that there's a absolute need to have this conversation. So this is why we're having it. So one of the reasons that you're, as a guy, not having the sex that you want is that your partner, your wife, especially if she's meant to be in the feminine, is doing the leadership. She wears the trousers. She decides what, when, and how. And you're being the nice guy. It's likely that the sex is going to be diminishing. It's going to reduce, and that's not just my experience. That is a well reported, well documented, from from the sex therapist we've spoken to, that from Dr. Robert Glover, he talked about that, and when we interviewed him, lots of guys report that as well.
Yeah, well, like typically, and in many relationships, that you have your honeymoon period at the start, and there's loads of fucking sex, loads and loads of sex, and for a lot of guys at the start, they are doing a lot of the leading. They're driven. They're picking the dating locations. They're taking the lady out. They're well like within their masculine. There's probably a little bit of, when you're on the in the dating scene, there's a little bit like ego, but like good ego, because I'm doing this and I'm doing that because you're trying to impress the lady. And that can really work. That can really pull off, because she's like, fucking hell, here's a man who's driven, who's focused, who's aspiring to achieve things in life. I find that attractive. That is sexy. I want to fuck the guy. I want to fuck it. I want to be fucked. And so you get all this great sex at the start of the relationship, and then where it can begin to taper off is where the man will start to lose some of those great character traits of drive, of leadership, of focus, of making decisions, and then it's just and then your women don't want to fuck you.
Yeah, I've experienced it. Full disclosure, I've noticed the difference in different relationships where that I've been in both of those polarities. I've been deeply in my masculine. I've been the man, um, and equally I've seen places where I've shown up as that contracted, impotent man, not impotent. And this is a really important word to talk about this with yesterday with Poppy, is that I was the man driving things forward in our relationship. I was driving things forward, and that's potency. I'm very potent with my attention, my behavior, the way I show up. I'm intentional, and that's what I think some guys lack. They lack that potency because of various things that happen to them, because of their weight, because of their mood, because of the stress, because of kids, because of business, and they lose that. So yeah, I think that there's absolutely a big, that is a big component of that. Let's dive into these five, because I think they're really going to benefit you. And we're just going to have a conversation about our experience, what we've seen with clients, and what you can do to change that as well, and what we've seen happen. Because we do actually help guys enormously with this stuff. And the first one is that the reason she's not having sex with you is because you're not showing up with presence. You're giving her a severe lack of presence. And what this looks like is you're in a room, you're there, and she's there, but you're not in the room. So you can be physically together. And we did this on when we did about the absent father session, is like you can be physically present, but you're emotionally or you're attentionally absent, like your attention's elsewhere. So she feels like that you're just not giving her the attention she deserves. She feels unseen. And I think this is for a lot of guys, what happens is, and I had this with Poppy, and you might want to speak to this in a second, Pete, but she would wait for me to come through the door at the end of the day. And she would be so excited to see me and talk about our day. And I would be so tired. I would be burnt out. I didn't want to speak to anyone. And I was numbing. I would go on my phone. I would give other people attention. I've been giving people attention all day. And so she was getting the conditioning is that, oh, he doesn't really care about my day.
Mm.
And think about what that does to a relationship over time. And we actually overcame this, a big one. But that was the first obstacle we actually overcame in our relationship. It was like you're coming home every day, you're walking through the door, and I want to tell you about my day, but you just as if you don't give a shit. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I could see that.
Yeah, yeah. This is probably. I mean, actually, when I was in corporate, this was still a thing for me. So whether you're in corporate, whether you run your own business, um, I think it got worse for me when I began my own business, because it was all I was thinking about. It was 24/7 thoughts, my business, because there's so much to think about. Oh, I've got to get that proposal out. Oh, I've got to get that client shit out. Oh, yeah, I need to speak to that team member. And it's like, it's fucking endless. It never stops. But what can happen there is that you get home and then you're thinking about your business and it's all in your head, and your missus is in the same room. and like one thing that I tried my best with this, didn't always get it right, was it how can I if I was to treat my missus like I treated my business, how would our relationship change? Because everything was going into the business, absolutely everything. Is if I can, and like with my clients, I do so much for my clients, and I'd really love my clients and do like wow experiences with my clients and go, oh, I could do this to surprise them and this to surprise them. If I use that same mentality with my missus, how would things change?
Oh, it's painful because what came up for me then was like your missus gets scraps of what's left. You
Yeah.
know, I've heard this explained like that before, and I don't know if I've had it said to me. I've heard a client say it, or I've heard it in a book or somewhere. It's just like you do that with your business, and your family gets scraps of what's left of you as a man,
Mm.
and that isn't good. And I can attest to being that man, and I can attest to times where I've actually overcome that as well. But
Yeah. Do you
I
know?
actually, go on.
Th- some of the most like powerful guys that I've been around, and I like when I think about this, is really noticeable. Is they have the ability to be mega fucking present in the moment. Like, so if they're having a conversation with you, they're not there's not like they're not checking the phone, they're not thinking about, they're not looking elsewhere, they're not that it's like full eye contact, fully with you, fully in the moment, that's like goes across business when you're having a business conversation, whether you're out for a coffee with a friend, whether you're sat with your missus, whether you're sat with your children, it's like just the only focus is that person. And the guys that I've been around that do that, it's noticeable. Like people tend to be drawn to them for starters, and well, they're powerful guys. And I think that's a great like character trait to embody. Is how can I have that singular focus and just like intense focus with the person that I'm with in the room?
Yeah, when Robert Glover came to do the work we did in men's business, so when we did men's business, I think it was number one, the first one we did, and he said trust is lust, and I kind of reversed engineered that, and it was like, well, if trust is lust, what's the fastest way to erode trust in a relationship is disinterest. So if you want to erode trust in a relationship with someone, show that you're not interested.
Mm,
And if you think about this, if I've got my phone out and I'm in a room, I'm saying that whatever I'm doing on my phone is more important than the conversation I'm having right now. It's a covert way of saying that. And if you look at it, staying on the thread we're talking about today, it's like, why doesn't she want to have sex with you? She doesn't feel like she's your world, she's your priority. She doesn't feel prioritized. And even talking about this, that I know that this is a work on for me. And I know it's a work on for a lot of men because they think, and we talked about this, I think it was even last week, oh, she's okay with it. She'll put up with it. And she will until she won't.
yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like she will until she won't. And she, it it can happen covertly, that she'll go and do something to fight back against that, or she'll do it overtly and just leave you. And like
Mm.
that's the two things. I actually look back to my previous marriage, and that's definitely happened. I'd come in through the door. I'd come through late. We'll talk about this later in a later point. I'd say I'd be home at 6. I'd come home at 8. Then I'd be on my phone, and it was just that it wasn't good, long term. And this wasn't every night, but at the same time, it happened enough to erode the fabric of the relationship. So that's the first one. So the first one is a lack of presence, and how do you solve that? By cultivating presence. It's actually putting things in place that are going to help you focus. I know for a fact now, if I've got my phone in my hand, I'm not present. I've got that relationship with my phone. If it's in my hand, I've got that connection with it. I'm thinking about what can I, reply to do. So I made a commitment to Poppy last night. When I'm around the kids in the evening, the phone is away because it just doesn't work for me being in an environment with my phone, kids, and Poppy. It just doesn't work. So that was
Do you want
like
to get? Do you
one
want
for
to get?
me.
Do you want to get a second phone, just like if I need to contact you though? Get one of those, like, what are those old
Bat
school, like,
phone,
beep. Yeah, no,
a
there's those little
pager.
pager. That's it.
Yeah, pager.
Just get a pager.
But the thing is, like, that's the nature of our business. We do have a, I'm on different time zones to Pete. We're about to go to 4 hours difference. Things happen at different times of the day. There's always going to be a reason. There's always going to be a reason. So I spoke to a number of guys, and actually one of the guys who did a real good job of this. He just said that he parked his phone next to his keys and he was off his phone for 2 hours as he walked through the door. And this made giant steps in his relationship. His partner was absolutely made up, and it didn't have to be the whole evening. It was just 2 quality hours every single evening where fully present. She had full trust that he was there, and I think what I don't have is I don't have the coming through the door because I work from home, so I need that separation. Let's
Mm,
move on to the next one, Pete. The next one is disconnected. So the reason she's stopped having sex with you, or he, if it depends which kind of relationship you've got, is that you've checked out. There's a She feels disconnected from you. She
mm.
feels that, like, well, he's obviously checked out. He doesn't want to do things with me anymore. Not interested. He's checked out. He won't even have conflict with me. And interestingly enough, just got off a coaching conversation there. We were talking about this idea that conflict is the route to peace. It's the route to building a relationship. And sometimes that guys just seem to just numb. I had one woman at a conference say to me, like, can you talk to my partner? Because he just doesn't talk back. When as soon as we get into an emotional conversation and we try and resolve it, he just shuts down. He won't speak.
He freezes.
He disconnects. He's like, oh, I'm going to get hurt here.
Yeah, yeah. But women can feel that in the energy. It is an energetic thing. Like, you can, what guys can feel it too. You can absolutely feel when someone is disconnected, when they're just not bothered. And it can be simple things, like we talk about, which is what the Gottman Institute talks about a lot, is bids. When you walk through the door and your partner might throw a bid at you. I say, oh yeah, I've had a really busy day today. It's been a mad day today, and then it's a bid for just a response from you. And if you don't give that response, or it's a weak response, it's a measly one, and you're not accepting the bid, it's disconnection. It shows that you're not that interested. And it might seem fucking micro, but like I always say, these little micro moments, they turn into the macro sooner or later. Whether that's a year or 3 years down the line, it becomes a fucking problem. And it could be one of the core reasons why she's not having sex with you. She just feels like you're not connected.
Yeah, and that was probably the biggest thing I got from reading the seven principles for making marriages work. It was like, recognize bids, like that for different relationships, bids will look differently. Like they will, like, it might be, what do you think of the dress that I'm wearing, is a bid for you to say, I love the dress, but I love you as well. That's kind of what the bid is. It could be, oh, my shoulder's hurting, and she's expecting you to give her a massage. Like, so I'm pretty good at recognizing that. If Poppy's like, oh, my shoulder, can you get my shoulder? I'm like, yeah, and I'll get in there and I'll properly give her a massage. And then, like little things like that is, like, if one of us shows it, if we should, like, show our back to the other person, it's like, right, give me a shoulder rub. And it's those bids. When you turn towards those bids, your relationship improves. When you miss them, oh, I remember when Poppy mentioned one day, she said, by the way, you missed that, by the way. And I was like, oh no, oh no.
At
Oh
least she
no.
fucking tells you. At least she's told. That's good that she's actually, that's fucking strong from Poppy, because that shows her growth and like her awareness to go, I'm gonna fucking tell him.
Yeah. Oh god.
Because
Yeah.
so often it can just be the silent treatment and an expectation for the guy. Well, why didn't you know?
Oh
Oh,
fuck yeah! We went yesterday because for her, me taking pictures of her, like doing content for it and getting it right, is important to her. And
yeah.
I was like, I was like, I just said to her, hey man. I didn't say, hey man. I said, hey babe, you don't need to be so nasty when I don't take the picture in the right way. And she goes, well, I didn't tell you, you'd never get it right. And I'm like, it's just like, that's her operating mechanism. But I think what's really good about that style of relationship is like where you can just say to each other, hey, by the way, you missed that. Yeah. And then being on the same page. And I think that we had like a date yesterday when we spent some time together. It was an hour. We took some pictures, and she really enjoyed that. That's quality time, and that's me. Me not just being on my phone. It was like my phone was in my hand, but she's the priority in that situation. And that was something I've seen various coaches talk about making your partner your queen and stuff like that. And I really think that she felt like a queen with it when she was having a picture taken and videos and stuff like that. So for me, it's a big one, is realizing that that's a big driver for her. But going back to disconnection, is that there is this kind of feeling that she'll have that she can't feel you anymore. She can't read you. You've gone cold. The iron curtain has come down for a lot of guys. They just like, I'm protecting myself now because I don't want to get hurt. And I think that's something that I've experienced in various relationships. As soon as I think that the relationship's going to end or it's going towards that, bam, that's it. I'm checking out.
Yeah,
And I
well,
think
that's
that,
it. You're checking out, and
yeah,
your
yeah,
partner will feel that.
yeah. So how do you actually improve this? Like Pete, what would you say, like, in terms of like disconnection, what would you say that has been like your number one for improving this?
Awareness, like you said earlier, recognizing bids. It's awareness of like how your partner bids, and then responding to them in a positive way, and in a way where you actually fucking mean it. Like you're not just like following the motions. Oh, she just sent me a bid, I'm gonna just say the right thing now. No, because again, it's an energy thing. She will know when you're just saying it or when you're saying it and you fucking really mean it. And that's the really important thing. And if you don't really, really fucking mean it, then it's probably a problem in your relationship, mate.
Mm.
There's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
a deeper problem there.
Oh, absolutely. And this is something that for me has been a big one for like disconnection is turning towards where I would used to turn away. So I was just saying to Pete before we got on, like, so we had conflict last night. We had conflict and we had an argument, but this morning and last night I turned towards her in the conflict, and I returned back to her where I'd normally just give her loads of distance. I would probably give more distance the following day. And then, so what happened is I turned towards her this morning, and I went with love and compassion and forgiveness.
That's the
And
key word there. If you weren't going to say it, I was going to say it. Forgiveness.
yeah,
Do you know that this is actually something Denise did really fucking well? She would forgive so quickly. It would be in minutes, and I would take hours, if not days. And it was, and I knew, and I was, and when I became aware of this, I'm like, this is a fucking massive, massive work on for me. Because here's what I was doing. I had bitterness, right? Oh,
it's my car alarm going off, I think, or something. Go.
Someone in Dubai is robbing your car? No.
Yeah, you can leave the door. Yeah, you're in Dubai, you can leave the doors open, but no, go keep going, brother.
Yeah, so I'd feel bitterness, right? There'll be we'd have an altercation, we'd have an argument, something would come up, and I wouldn't, and she'd forgive really quickly, and I wouldn't forgive really quickly, and I'd have a little bit of bitterness, but bitterness is fucking awful because when you think about it, you dwell on it. There's like resentment comes up, and it can be fucking micro little moments here, but that then extenuates how long you're in that fucking, again, the energy of not forgiving someone, or holding it against them, and then
You're
that just
disconnected.
like,
Yeah, you
well,
just disconnected.
again,
Yeah,
you just disconnected. So this, I think, the quicker you can forgive someone, the better. So like Ben was saying there, like you like leaned into that, and it was like, okay, loving forgiveness, I think that's a really key one for a lot of guys, and a lot of guys and ladies on this. It can be a bit of an ego thing. Oh, I'm not fucking forgiving. No, no. Why should I? It's not my fault. I didn't start the argument.
Yeah,
Why
that's
should
a
I
big
forgive?
one. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a huge
But it
one.
fucks you both. But it fucks you both over. It's a. Do you know? Like, I've learnt this over the last couple of years, and especially going through the divorce with Denise, is that forgiveness is a master skill. Like I think it's one of the top skills and top traits that anyone can have is the ability to be able to forgive and actually mean it.
Mm,
Because if you hold on for shit, like say you've gone through a divorce and there's been shit that's happened through the breakdown of the marriage, and you can't forgive, you'll take the problem here is that you can take that into future relationships, because that bitterness that you still hold will fucking surround your heart and surround your soul, and it'll put that armor up internally, and then
mm.
you go into another relationship and still have that bit of bitterness from the existing relationship, but you're carrying it forward,
Well, you
and
take it into
it's
the
toxic.
yeah, you take it from one gender to the next. It's like, well, it's not just a one woman; it's women. You know, it's
Yes.
like, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, good. And going back to like, how does this affect your sex life? Well, are you going to want to have sex with someone who's disconnected from you, who's pushing you away, who's not turning towards you? And it makes sense when you look at it through this lens. You know, really does make a lot of sense. And the next one that kind of really builds on this one is no trust. She doesn't trust you anymore. Now, this can be through various things that you've cheated on her, that you have lied to her, that you are not doing what you said you would do. This is a big one. I think this is a big one and has been a big one for me in the past in the current relationship is that every time that there's something that erodes the trust in the relationship, it's like if you think about it on a real primal level, it's like, do I trust this man to go the distance with me? And this is something it's probably been my biggest work on in relationships is to become a trustworthy man. Like I think even in my ceremony I did in Ibiza, this was huge. I like trust was big. It was a word that kept on coming up and up and up, and it was like, right, trust, be that trustworthy guy, be the guy that women can trust, because that is what this is what you're here to do. Become the guy that is trustworthy to women and trustworthy to men. And that was like a really big insight from that process, because I hadn't been in the past. I hadn't come good on what I said I was going to do. I'd lied in the relationships I've been in through omission. I have shame around that, but it was just where I was at the time.
Yeah. I
And
think that the lying one is a biggie, because it can
yeah,
be as simple as little white lies. Oh, I'll just say that because it'll be easier, and then I won't get loads of questions. I'll just give a little white lie, right? And but that's a fucking but that over time is a problem, because you're not being honest. And
yeah.
again, if you're not being honest, there's no trust.
Well, I think for guys, it's like, I'll be home at 6, knowing full fucking well you ain't going to be home at 6. And I think that was one of my biggest ones. I told, oh yeah, I'll be back at 6. I knew it when it exited my mouth. I would not be back through the door at 6. I finished work at 5:30, maybe quarter to 6. There was not a chance I would be back through that door by 6. Yeah, I'd say it, and I'd be like, "What the fuck?" And and I think that just eroded the trust. And we said it before: trust is lust. And so it gets to the point where you, she just doesn't trust you to come good on your word, and also she doesn't trust you that you're going to be honest about a lot of things as well. Like there's dishonesty coming from that you won't clearly express how you feel about things. So she just doesn't trust you.
Right. Number four.
You can go on this one.
Number four is that you don't inspire her anymore. as a punch in the gut. You're not an inspiration to her anymore. You're not driving their relationship. You're not focused. You haven't got aspirations. You're not leading. You're not pushing forward. You haven't got that zest, that edge that you as a guy has. You know when you fucking lean into your edge, it's sexy as fuck. The opposite sex finds it attractive. And if you're not inspiring her, she's not going to want to fuck you, right? Not in the way that you want that you want that to happen. So, and I think that I alluded to this at the start of the podcast, is that it starts of relationships. You can have a lot of that, and then when it starts to diminish, and you reduce that inspirational guy that you once were, you don't find that attractive.
Yeah, I just think the same thing comes up again for me when I hear that one. So it's like these big picture visions and dreams and goals that you had, and you don't take action on them, and or that you say things to pacify her, and she knows that, and you know that, and you're
Yeah.
like, and she said, like, oh yeah, well, I'm overweight, and you said you'd do something about it, but you said that so many times just to pacify her and get her off your back, or you're going to give up smoking, or you're going to give up drinking, and you know that she wants you to do that, and she knows that you know that you've disclosed that you want to do it so many times to her, and you're not coming good on that promise, and it just doesn't inspire her at all. She's like, well, he never backs himself, he never even tries, and I think that just
Do you
starts
know?
to really go on.
Yeah, I just had last night. I went to go and see an evening with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was fucking awesome. It was so good. He's my hero. He has been for so long. Just like, what a man. I was into my bodybuilding in my teens and my 20s, and he is the guy. And then he went into movies, and then he went into politics, and he was governor for California. What a fucking hero. And he was doing his talk last night, but two things he said that really, really like stuck out to me. He was like, have a goal. Always just have a goal. Have something that you're going towards, that you're trying to achieve. You're going towards a goal. And this is kind of where we're going with this now. It's like, guys, have something that you're gunning towards. It's fucking sexy. It's inspirational, and it pushes you as a man. It pushes you forward. And if you haven't got that, it's probably one of the reasons why your women don't want to have sex with you. The second thing he said, and this was like on the same lines as having a goal, and I'm so fucking glad he mentioned it, because I was thinking if I could ask Arnie a question, this would be it. And he said about failure. So he went into failure, and you think about Arnie's life, like every move that he's made has been massive. Like he's beyond power moves. Like he has done the biggest things on the biggest stages in multiple arenas. And there's not many people that can say that they've done that. And he went into like his thinking around that, and it was all down to failure, and he's just not scared of it. He was just like, well, how far can you fall? And he pointed to the floor, and he's like, it's only there. He's like, I'll fall on the floor, and then I'll just get back up, and then I'll get back up again. And he's like, I love failure. Failure is a great thing. It's the best teacher in the world. I've failed so many times in my life, but he's like, losers will stay on the floor, winners always get up. And he said it's not that hard to get up. So, and I'm like, that's fine. And it's the same. So it's like, have a goal, guys, and then not be scared of failure. That, my friends, is fucking you going into warrior, you going into king, and that's fucking sexy. Like you driving forward, you're not scared to fail, and you're going towards something bigger in life. Likely you inspiring your woman.
Love that was great. I don't even need to add to that. I think the next, just let's move on. I think that was, guys, if you didn't take something from that, wow. The next one is you objectified her, and this, I think this was for me, having stopped watching pornography and distanced myself from watching that kind of material is you realize how far removed pornography is from real sex. And the way I would the likening I'd give this is like it's like F1 driving compared to normal everyday driving. They are just totally different. One is an entertainment sport, and one is something you do every day. And like trying to, if you went in your car and tried to drive around like an F1 car, it might be pretty exciting now and again, but it just doesn't work.
It only lasts a minute.
Yeah, yeah. And like I think that if you've treated your partner like a porn star, it might have been, it might have been great at some parts of the relationship, and you might have space for that in your relationship. But I can tell you, definitely from experiencing sex beyond having children and learning about really like what really gets women horny and ready for sex. It's not like a quickie. And a lot of guys way too quick to go in, and they don't do the necessary preparation. So the actual partner after a while says like, actually, I'm not really enjoying this. I don't really enjoy this experience. It hurts. It's painful. I watched a podcast a while ago about how to pleasure your woman as you get older, because it was like she was talking about, well, as women get older, they're like drier. They experience like different experiences during sex. They want different types of sex, and I was like, yeah, it's really really profound. But I think what happens is a lot of guys don't upgrade their sexual practices, and they just do what they've always done. And in sex, like any part of your relationship, is going to change. It's going to mature. It's going to be different. And I think that is it's old thinking. And I think, guys, you need to listen in, that you absolutely need to re-educate yourself about what your partner wants. And even if this is just an open conversation, and guys don't have this. Like me and Poppy have this quite frequently. Like, what are you enjoying right now? What's good for you? What do you want? And we even talked about it yesterday, and it does really really help. But you have to bring it to dialogue. You can't just expect these things to just change themselves, because some guys, if they were given the sexual routine, they'd keep it the same for like 10 years and be fine with just having sex. And it's not the same for women.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think for a lot of guys, this like end result is I just want to come. I want going for the ejaculation, and and I suppose for a lot of guys who masturbate frequently, and it's like, well, just come as quick as possible, just to get that hit, get that quick thrill. But if you take that into your sexual experience with your missus, that's not a good experience for her, and especially if you're coupling that with porn, because then potentially your expectation is that you're going to have this wild ride and do all these like crazy Kama Sutra moves. She's going to have multiple orgasms and be screaming the roof off, and then it's not like that. That's not it's like your expectation is, oh well, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. I'll just continue watching porn because I get all of that. And then for her, well, it's just a sack of shit. It's not enjoyable, and really you just objectified her. You've used her like an object.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, I think
a
like
potent one. I think there's a lot of
it
shame that
is.
guys will probably have around that as well.
Yeah, it is. And we've recently had some really, really interesting conversations with the guys on Awaken Man, on sex and like how to please a woman, how to pleasure a woman, but really going like in depth into it, talking about like tantric and all sorts. It's been really interesting, and it's it's worthwhile, guys, reading up on this and actually like doing a bit of training around this and really practicing this, because it will cultivate your sexual relationship with your partner, and she will want to have sex with you because it's a great time,
Yeah, I think
not
this is
just
a
a
big
quick bang.
Yeah, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, because I think a lot of guys have this thing is like, oh yeah, I'm great in bed, or I'm just good enough. I don't need to impress. It's just like it's a bullshit ego-driven stance, and it's like, I'm not going to go and learn about that. Why would I read a book on that? I'm a freaking sex god, and
I'm a
actually,
stallion.
yeah, and like it's like what I liken it to. It's like the guys who go out and play pub football thinking they're Maradona, they're El Pele. It's like they're just, they're not great, and the standards are really poor, but they think they're brilliant. And there's leagues to it, and you can absolutely improve. And what I think was quite humbling is finding out it's, I probably had that vision, and I was like, oh my god, there's these. And I started listening to one of the guys talk about this. I was like, oh my god, you can do that without that. I was like, wow.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting. It's it's. But again, I think this has come back to the whole, what you don't get, if you don't get around a group of guys that talk about this, you'll never find this out. And part of this, what we had to do on this podcast is give you the intro to this conversation. So, guys, they're the 5 reasons. Well, we actually got 6 there. Why she might not be wanting to have sex with you, and if this is something you struggle with, maybe just take a beat and just think about how you can start to do the inner work that's going to help you get uh, through this and start to work through this. And ladies, if you've listened to this and you found it helpful, give it to your partners and say, hey, listen, these guys are speaking openly about sex. I think this would really help us if we both listen to it, or if you listen to this. Be very mindful how you give it to him, though. It's like giving someone a can of deodorant for Christmas. If you do it in the wrong way, you think that they're telling them you smell, that you're telling them they smell. It's like, be very conscious how you distribute this episode to your partner,
Mm.
because it's really, for a lot of guys, this topic is really, really hard to talk about. And going through the comments on the reel, I realized that so many men and women don't know how to have this conversation. They call each other toxic, they call each other narcissists, they use all these red flag terms, which are like all from psychology, when it's just, some men really struggle with this conversation because they've never ever had it, or never have had to have it. So be mindful, be kind around this as well.
Guys and ladies, because we've got loads of ladies followers now. Could you do us a favour? Ben and I put loads of time and effort into this, and we don't sponsor this podcast, or we don't have any sponsor or anything like that. We want to just keep it clean and straight value for you. Can you please follow us on Spotify and leave us a review, or if you watch us on Apple, follow us on Apple, leave us a review. It really, really helps with this message getting out to more people.
Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.